All right. Well, good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. This is Gene Trowbridge, and this is our weekly version of TLG Talks, standing for Trowbridge Law Group. And today I'm very excited to have a great friend and someone who I actually do quite a bit of business with. We speak together at each other's events, and this is Kaaren Hall. Say hi, Kaaren.
Hi. Thanks so much for bringing me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. You know, in this whole series of TLG Talks, I've interviewed people who are in the syndication, in the securities business, with some of my clients who do an awful lot of business. I've even had a person you may even know, Susie Walker-Jones, who I interviewed, who is a very successful real estate agent who would never be a syndicator. And then I indicated a young lady from Atlanta by the name of Whitney Ward, who attended one of my rookies class. And my rookies class is all about people. It's for people who've never done a syndication, but are thinking of doing it. And therefore, they're a rookie. And we were talking with her about her trepidations and her fears about getting started. So the reason I asked Kaaren to be with me today is Kaaren is involved in the IRA business and does an awful lot of business, and quite a few of my clients use Kaaren and her firm when they get ready to bring an investor into their syndication. So Kaaren, tell us what your role is in the field of individual retirement accounts.
Sure. Well, in the industry, my role is, as a CEO of uDirect IRA services, but industry-wide, I serve on the board of directors for the Retirement Industry Trust Association. I've been a member of RITA, is the acronym, and I've been a member of RITA for, about 11 years, I think. And what we do is we're a lobby, and we meet with regulators and hear from like the Department of Treasury, FINRA, SEC, even the FBI. And we talk about issues about how can we prevent fraud and what should we be looking for? What are upcoming changes and how can we adapt our industry to best serve, the people who we serve? So those are the things that we look at on an industry-wide basis. So
that's amazing. And I've been to some of those events with you, and there's an awful lot of knowledge that comes out of that. So you mentioned that you're the boss lady at uDirect IRA, and we've got that website right there. So if you want to read more about Kaaren and her terrific background on this, I think you started your business in would it have been right around 2008 or 2009 when times were really tough in our industry?
Yeah, they were pretty skinny then. It was 2009, about the end of August is when I opened up uDirect, and it was me and a laptop and a cup of coffee, and that was the whole company.
No, it's just amazing. And now you control over how many millions of dollars of assets?
Over 500 million, getting towards 600 million in client assets.
Okay, so that sounds like an awful lot, but tell me, how big is the IRA world out there in dollars?
Sure, it's about 10 trillion just for the IRA, but
Wow.
Overall, the whole picture, when we talk about 401ks and IRAs, and we have defined benefit plans and so many different kinds of retirement plans, even annuities, the entire retirement picture in the United States is $31 trillion. And
that's amazing. So all of the people who are syndicators put together offerings, raising money from investors from millions of different things, would like to access that marketplace, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's only like 3 to 4% of that money that is tapped into IRAs. So self-directed IRAs are still a best kept secret. Not everyone knows that you can take your IRA or that you can take your 401k from your old business and take that and invest in assets that you know best, like syndications and real estate, a brick and mortar real estate. precious metals. You can invest in land, so many different kinds of asset classes.
Well,
And
what
so
is a self-directed? Self-directed, I heard that term. I'm not sure everyone knows that.
Mhm.
What is that? And I think you kind of told me already why I'd want one of those, but what is it and why would an investor, someone listening to this, want a self-directed IRA?
Well, I'll kind of back up and give you a little history on this whole thing. So when IRAs came out, it was in 1975. That's when Gerald Ford signed the ERISA laws into effect. And ever since then, when they created IRAs, they say when you have an IRA, from day one, you can invest in anything except life insurance contracts and collectibles. So that means you could have self-directed your IRA from day one. What it also means is an IRA is an IRA. That is a bucket that holds assets. So a typical IRA is going to hold stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, right? Kind of boring, but it's kind of fun too. But a self-directed IRA opens the floodgates on that and lets you invest in all different kinds of asset classes like we were talking about. So maybe you call your financial advisor and they say, well, we have a self-directed IRA because you can pick any stock you want. That's not the same as a self-directed IRA that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is investing outside of Wall Street. So an IRA is just a bucket that holds assets. The self-directed IRA lets you invest in alternative assets outside of Wall Street. And why you would want
That's
one.
right. So when my
Yeah.
clients put together a syndication
Mhm.
and they're going to buy an apartment building
Mhm.
and they're looking for investors with, let's say, $50,000, an investor who has the right kind of self-directed IRA, the one they would have with an administrator like you,
Correct.
you can take their money and invest in that syndication. But the guys down at Merrill Lynch can't do that.
Right, or TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab, they don't offer what we do. It's just a different animal altogether. I believe the series 73 and 6 or so forth prevent you from actually, like, for example, having a real estate license, right, Gene?
Yes, that's for sure. So that's why it's very attractive. And the private placements that you see today that people are investing in through you, what are the top three asset classes that you see?
Right. Well, I'll just say to pick today as a typical day. We've seen a lot of brick and mortar real estate today, people making earnest money deposits. They found a good deal and they want to invest in some real estate for investment purposes. But for our industry-wide private placements, the syndication is numero uno. It is number one. So that's the most common asset for a self-directed IRA. And I think brick and mortar private placements, and I think following that would be notes. Buying performing and non-performing debt, for example.
No, I really like that because one of the benefits of investing in your IRA is I'm going to use the term, you correct me if I'm wrong, at least tax deferral. Maybe it's tax free, or I don't know which is the best answer, but I know you're not going to, when you invest in a syndication that's on performing notes and they send you their check, they send the IRA the check for 9%. You're not paying taxes on that this year, right?
Not this year. A Roth IRA can be tax-free for life. So when you take that's the only kind of a retirement account that's tax-free later. You pay your tax on your contribution, but not on the dividends or any kind of proceeds. But you're right. So you hold this money in your IRA, and assuming it's not a Roth, it's tax deferred until you actually withdraw it and take personal possession. So if you do that before you're 59 and a half, what that means is that then you're going to pay a penalty, a 10% penalty for early withdrawal. Otherwise, if you're 59 and a half or older, you can take that money out, still be taxed on how much you withdraw, and but you will pay a penalty. Now, sometimes there are times when you can take the money out and it is penalty free. Like we just in 2020 had the CRD, the coronavirus related distribution, where you could take money out in 2020, not pay a penalty as long as you had some issue where COVID got involved in your life and it precluded you from maybe working or something and you needed the money. You have to prove that to the IRS. That's one of the times. But also if you're paying for higher education or a first-time home buyer, we do have a list on our website, on our blog, about the times when you can take a withdrawal from an IRA. Maybe you still have to pay taxes, but there are certain times, about 6 or 7 of them, when you can take the money and avoid the penalty.
Well, that's interesting. I'm a little bit older than you are, like a generation, and I keep getting these letters every year about a mandatory withdrawal that I have to take. And I looked that up once, and they say my life expectancy is way longer than I really think I'm going to live. So it looks like when you get to be older, they want you to deplete that account. This is not an estate building idea, the IRA. It's a retirement plan, and it's not designed for you to leave a whole bunch of money to your heirs. Am I right about that?
You are. A couple of things. Number one, I think you're wrong about how long you're going to live. Anybody that runs as many marathons as you, I think you're going to outlive me. So we'll leave that there. But you're right. It is a retirement. It is for retirement, and that is the purpose. Now, if you were to pass away and you had an IRA, you would name a beneficiary.
Sure.
And then if you were to pass away, it doesn't go through probate. Just that beneficiary gets your IRA, receives it as an inherited IRA, and that opens a whole nother conversation about inherited IRAs and what they are. So many rules. So if you ever obtain an inherited IRA or you're gifted one, then you want to, then we'll have a long talk about that.
That's for sure. Now, in your company, your website has great access to information.
Mhm.
You yourself offer live seminars where you speak and you bring other people in. So uDirect is quite a resource for someone who wants to learn about a self-directed IRA, and that's why your business has grown. You've known me for a long time, and we do a lot of the same things. And I'm always been a proponent of education-based marketing.
Mhm.
If you educate people, possibly they'll become your client, and you can do business with them. And it always starts with, for me, Kaaren, it's always start with education.
I agree. In fact, we're starting an education series for 2021 since we can't get together in person as much as we really love to. Our series is going to start off with Keystone CPA talking about, even though the tax laws aren't out in the new, administration, what kind of things to start to look for and to start to plan your 2021 taxes, because you really do have to begin with the end in mind when you look at the tax year. You want to start now. And then we're going to have another conversation later on, another event, and it will be how to do due diligence on notes. So this year, uDirect is going to be providing even more education to our account holders to talk about different asset classes and, what do you do? And maybe if we're really lucky, you'll do one for us, Gene.
Maybe. So you're having Keystone is the first one. That's Amanda and Matt.
Right.
It's a small world, isn't it? They do our accounting for our law firm.
Ours as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, are there any concerns in your industry that you're looking at? Any issues that might come up in the next 2 or 3 years that someone who owns a self-directed IRA should be concerned about?
I don't really see any reason to be concerned about your retirement account on the horizon. What I've been reading and hearing is that the new administration, everything they say still sticks within the confines of the retirement industry the way it is. What they talk about is, supplementing and adding things to it. For example, one of the things I've read is that if you have a 401k, this isn't self-directed IRAs, but if you have a 401k with a company, maybe now they're going to be allowing make that part-time employees to participate in the 401k of your company. So that's something new. You have to be a full-time employee now. Mm-hmm. So perhaps in the in the near future, part-time employees will be able to participate. They've talked about, when you hit 50 years of age, you get what's called a catch-up contribution. You can contribute a little more so you can catch up and have more for retirement. And what I've heard from the, Biden's initial disclosure about his policies is that they're talking about a catch-up contribution for care providers, which would be great. Let them contribute more so they'll have more later on. I've also heard, what else? Different ways about instead of making the contribution tax deductible, having you make the tax making the contribution, it's taxable, but then you get a tax credit. So that may change. Nothing is in stone yet, but this is what's been in writing so far about what we may see on the horizon. But all of this, again, is within the structure of the retirement industry as it stands. So I don't see a lot of dramatic change.
Good. So the retirement industry is safe. We need to be concerned about the underlying assets.
Mm-hmm.
We're always concerned about the underlying assets. Things go up and down, and everyone talks on the business news station that I listen to. Boy, you got to be happy about your IRA and your 401k now, and they weren't talking about that in 2009 when you started.
So much.
your business. So yeah, that's. I know you go ahead.
I was just going to say, to your point about concerns, I really think that I would really like to interject that the concerns are always doing your due diligence, making sure that you're making a good investment. Cryptocurrency is on the rise, and of course, in syndications, a lot of the cryptocurrency is syndicated. Or it can be. There are a lot of initial coin offerings, and there's also a lot of fraud. And the SEC came out with a warning in particular for retirement accounts using cryptocurrency. Just do your due diligence, because if you lose money in a retirement account, of course, you don't get to write it off, and you don't get to replace those assets very easily because you've got contribution caps. So those are things to if you're going to be cautious, you're going to be cautious about before you invest, doing your homework.
Okay. So I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this question, and maybe it's not something you want to comment, but what are your plans for your company for the next 3 years?
Right. Well, some things I can't tell you about, but we really do actually have some really cool things in the works technologically. So we're going to increase our increase the level of technology in our industry and also in our business. So that is very exciting. Also, Gene, you and I talked about writing a book 6 years ago. And so that is in the final stages. So that was, with any luck, that'll finally come out. It's, this book writing, you think, oh, it's easy. And then you realize, oh gosh, there's a little more to it. So that should be coming out.
No, that's truth. I'm working on the 4th edition of my book right now.
Oh.
And the big change is in chapter 5 in the securities laws, because there have been certain things, and every time I say, okay, I've got that right, that could be the 4th edition, they come up with something else that they propose to change. And right now it's finder's fees. And I would be, there are 2 ways to go on that. I could get the 4th edition out and wait till there's a change in the finder's fees and then look like a saint and come out with the 5th edition. Someone told me once, a college professor who I know, he says, every year you can come out with a new edition because you've got a spelling mistake, you've got a punctuation mistake. You can't be having the same edition out there for 4 or 5 years, which is what I have now, because I waited for 2013 for the Jobs Act, and I made the 3rd edition, and then about every year they come up with something, and I wait to change that chapter, and someday I just need to get it done. Well, this has been terrific. This has been great for our listeners. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your contribution to the industry that we're all in, whatever that's called. We're all in the same industry, and I know a great reputation when I see one, and a great company when I see one, and I'm happy to do business with you, and I'm happy to have you on this interview, and we will talk sometime in the future.
That's
Kaaren,
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye.